Good afternoon. I'm Laura Zervis. I'm a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist, and I'm excited to be here today for Lending Hearts, talking about we're upon the holiday season is upon us. We're a few weeks will be into November, and we're starting to think about all those recipes that we're going to make when our family gathers. So I thought it'd be a great idea because if you think about it, that Thanksgiving meal doesn't have to be it really gets a bad rap, right? I think there's ways we're starting with a beautiful roast turkey. What's not great about that? High in protein. Um, it depends what we're doing with it. But those side dishes, right? What are we going to do with those side dishes so we have a nice, well balanced meal that's also healthy? And I like to, with our other classes, if you remember, I always like to keep vegetables and whole foods in their most pure form. I don't like to disguise them or mask them unless you really have an aversion to fruits and vegetables. And then we could find ways to sneak them into some of our dishes. But let's really embrace some of these flavors that we have going on this year and try to keep them in their purest form. So a couple things that we're going to do today. I thought first we would tackle that Thanksgiving holiday and or just any type of harvest holiday gathering that you're having. I think it's really nice to include, I have a lot of, you see I have some pumpkin and some butternut squash behind me, some varieties there. But I thought it would be nice to provide a brunch recipe. So we're going to make a pumpkin pancake that I'm really excited about. We're going to use fresh pumpkin in case you never did that. I thought it's really interesting to see. And once you make fresh, you will never go back to canned. And it's also great too. Sometimes canned pumpkin isn't available to us, or sometimes it's scarce, or sometimes if you wait too long, the price goes very high. So it's good to know how to make a pumpkin. It's something fun to do in the kitchen with other friends or family. And what else we're going to do is we're not going to make our turkey. We're going to make some side dishes. So one that we're going to make is a wild rice pecan stuffing. Just thought that might be a nice vegetarian. We're not going to use any giblet from the turkey. It's basically going to be a wild rice, some vegetables sauteed in there, a little bit of turkey broth, and then we're going to finish it off with some few things to make it interesting, colorful, and appealing to our guests. And again, we're looking for something to not only complement that main dish, we're looking to contrast a little bit too. We don't want to have, we always think about what makes a good meal good. And what makes a good meal good is a meal that varies in texture, a meal that varies in color, a meal that varies in cooking method, and a meal that varies in texture, color, cooking method are the main things. So what we want to look at, we wouldn't want to have, for example, and I think I've used this before, and this one always makes me laugh. We wouldn't want to have maybe meatballs with red skin potatoes that we left whole like a little like a golf ball size, and maybe Brussels sprouts, right? When you looked at your plate, it would just be a bunch of round little balls on our plate, right? So we want it varied in flavor, texture, and cooking method and color. So those are the four things that we want to look for. So we already have our turkey, which is a nice soft color. So it's great that we're going to be adding some sweet potatoes today. And we're also going to be having that pumpkin, the pancakes, and we have our rice dish, which is a little bit crunchy. So we're getting some nice texture there. And we're also going to make a nice fruit to go over our pancakes. And that could be served on the side as well. So let's get started. So much to do, so much to get into the oven and get cooking. So we only have a short time today. So let's get started. Again, all of the recipes will be on the website. They'll be available to you at Lending Hearts, their website as well. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I appreciate that. And as always welcome to modify the recipes in any way that you need for your family, whether you need them to be vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free. There's always something we could do. And I'm happy to work with you on those things so you could enjoy the holiday too. So let's get started. The first one is our sweet potato dish. And I'm really excited about this. So I want to do a little twist. And has to do with keeping those dishes pure, like we talked about, and really enjoying the flavor of the sweet potato itself. So, oftentimes you see them being prepared where they're cooked, then they're mashed, and you add like a cream to them or brown sugar, marshmallows, all kinds of different things. Let's just get back to basics. We have a lot going on. It's a big day. Let's get back to basics. Let's keep them nice and simple. And to do that, we're going to focus more on our presentation. So let's get started with that. And where is my large bowl that I wanted to use, my very first thing? So we're going to get this started, and I'm going to adjust my camera so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use a glass dish. It's 10 inches in diameter. I have used some cooking spray on it, so it won't stick, and it also makes cleanup easier. We're going to get started with this. So let me show you. So I wanted to let me backtrack again. I didn't want to do like our typical casserole, but I thought, okay, so if we're not doing something and we're adding some crazy ingredients to this, how can we differentiate our sweet potatoes? So I thought, why not really jazz up the way that we're going to serve them? And I think the best way to do that, I thought, almost like a Hasselback style. And I think Hasselback would be great for this recipe as well. But I was thinking about all of the side dishes that are served at some of these holiday meals. The thing with the Hasselback is somebody might feel like they had to take the whole potato. So we're not going to Hasselback them. We're going to just slice them thin. This would work really great with a mandolin. I don't have one available to me, so we're just going to slice them on our own. So anyhow, let me adjust the camera and show you what we're going to do. So let's just follow along here. We're going to trim off the edges. Okay, it's going to discard those. And you might want to get a nice flat edge there so our potatoes doesn't roll on us. And we're just going to slice them about, I have some here, but we're talking about 1/8 of an inch, right? So 1/2 of a 1/4 inch, if that helps you. And what we're going to do is, this is going to be a lot. It's going to make such a beautiful presentation. And these are sweet potatoes. They're a little bit different than yams. Here, trying to cut through this. Anyhow, these have a thin red skin. They're orange inside. Okay. Let me just get a little bit there. We'll just discard that. Don't want to have any accidents today. And we're going to toss them in a bowl. And we're going to season them. So let's just keep up with this. And I scrubbed these real good. I removed any, visible dirt. See a little bit of a string here. And again, the thicker that you cut them, you could use a mandolin too if you're not comfortable with your knife skills. And it's not easy to cut. It is hard. So I do want to caution you there. Okay, and let's get another one in there. And you don't have to rush. That's how we have issues. Get a nice flat edge. Use this one here. Nice big one. And I don't like to peel mine. It stays together a little bit nicer if you don't peel them. The little slices will stay intact. And also it'll help it to brown a little bit too. And I'm going to cut some extra just so we have enough for our dish. Again, a mandolin would work really nicely with this. And if we were going to do these, if you wanted to, you could do this Hasselback style. And let me show you how you would do them. Because that's a lot of fun too. Okay, if we were going to do this Hasselback style, I probably would cut into the bottom and you cut, but you don't cut all the way through. See, we're just going to go all the way down. So when it cooks, it's going to, this is going to open up for you. So that's one way to do it. If you have just a small gathering and you don't have many sides, you could do that as well. But I think to have like a large dish, that way somebody could just try these if they want. All right. I think we should be good there. And we're going to add our olive oil. Toss that in here. About a tablespoon. And we're also going to add some butter to that as well. And then I'm also going to add some garlic to this. And then I have some fresh rosemary too. And I'm not going to chop it, but I am going to pull some off the sprigs. I don't like to chop it. I like to leave it in larger pieces just in case. Oh, this smells so good. This is going to be such a compliment to this. Again, trying to enhance that flavor versus mask it with other things. I think that would be very nice. And then I'm going to save a sprig for the end. Okay, perfect. Let's toss those up. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to layer them in our pan. It's going to go like this. You just want to make sure that they get coated real nicely, every one of them. And then I would try to just scoop them up first and put them in your hand like that, and then fan them out. And we're just going to go like that. You could use this at any type of dish that you want. You could use it in, we use it for, I don't like the way that one looks. If you remember last week or a couple weeks ago, we were doing a soup in one of one of those cast iron with enamel pans, and I just keep going and going here. Stick some in the back. We want to make sure that they could fan too. So just trying, and then in the middle, you could always do something like that. Make sure we get all make sure we get all the rosemary and the garlic in there, even if we're not using all our potatoes. I'll just have 2 dishes, that's all. Want it to get messy. Again, you're getting that Hasselback effect like you have when, they're all nicely fanned out. Some of these I left a little too thick. That's okay. We will use them in our next batch. Just get those fanned out. Just maybe put a few in the middle there. There we go. Well, you're satisfied with the way it looks. And I like that right there. Let me wipe my hands and we'll get this covered with foil and we'll get it in the oven right quickly. So we're going to first put this in the oven just so it could get cooked. We want to cook the potatoes first. We don't want to brown them just yet. So let's get that in the oven. I'm going to put it in a 400-degree oven. And we'll get those in there for probably about, they might not be totally done by the time we're finished with class, but at least we'll get a good idea. Okay, so let's move this aside and we're going to start on our next item. And I'm excited about this. And bring this little guy over. So this is a sugar pumpkin. So I really like to use sugar pumpkins. I have washed him off because I do not want to introduce any of the germs or bacteria or dirt into the inside of this. You can take this stem off. It's probably a good idea. As we get cutting in here, we'll see what we have going on. Let me just move. I got some sweet potatoes all over the place, and let me just get a spoon so we could scoop out the seeds when we're ready. Okay. And remember, I saved some of that rosemary for garnish. So I just set that aside here. And I just have a pan that I've lined, a sheet pan that I've lined with foil. That's the best way to do this. And I always do this whether I'm making pumpkin pie, but I thought, wow, why don't we make our pancakes from some fresh pumpkin? If you don't want to do this or you don't want to take this isn't something that's interesting to you, you could always just use a can of pumpkin puree. We're basically making our own. I do like using, if I'm not going to use a fresh pumpkin, I will use pumpkin puree versus pumpkin pie mix. Pumpkin pie mix already has all the spices in it. It's kind of fun to add your own and experiment. Maybe there's a certain cinnamon that you like, not make ginger cloves versus what is actually in the pumpkin pie filling. And that way you could make it your own. So let's get started here. I'll show you how I cut this. Hopefully it goes easy for us. We'll see. We just wipe off. My knife got just a little oily from our sweet potatoes. Okay. All right. So let's give it a nice cut in here. And you could always use your cleaver as well. Let's see here. Don't want to cut this off this way. Okay, and this is not easy to cut, so you be careful when you're doing this. The first one is usually a little bit harder too. The first cut. And what we're going to do though, that's perfect. We're just going to scoop out these seeds, and we could always save these for toasting too. I love toasting these. Okay. And this works best with a sugar pumpkin. Not all pumpkins are created equal. Some of the larger pumpkins, they have a little bit a different texture to them. These ones are always very sweet. And you'll notice, look how much flesh we have in there. That's the beauty of the sugar pumpkin. If you look at some of the other pumpkins, like that one there, that's still considered a, let me show you which one I'm talking about here in the background. Okay. So anyhow, let me show you what the other pumpkin I'm talking about. That pumpkin back there, that's still considered a sugar pumpkin. And that will work. And that's going to have the same type in here. But you know, the typical ones that are the big that we use for jack-o'-lanterns, they're going to have a very thin flesh right here. So not the best for making pies. You want something that's going to give you, so we can make that nice rich puree. Okay. Again, I don't know if we'll get this done in time, but I did. I'm gonna put some pictures on the website so you can see what the finished product is. I encourage you to do that, and I will also post some of these so you can see them. But it's a fun thing to do. It's a fun activity, and once you make your own, and these are usually pretty reasonable versus the large jack-o'-lanterns. I think each one of these pumpkins was $3 at my local farmer's market. So not only am I getting local, it's a low cost, it's not processed, it's a nice whole food. I'll make it myself. I know what's in it. So just fun to do that sometimes. And I'll get this in the oven. And I'm going to save some of these seeds so I could roast some pumpkin seeds for my family. I'm just going to save those over here. And I'm going to cut this off. Okay. Right, and that's my last one. Okay, and you want to remove all of this orange little stringy stuff there. It's okay if it gets in there, but sometimes there's a lot of water in there. And if you're making your pumpkin pie, you can notice if you do make a pumpkin pie out of fresh pumpkin, you are going to notice a little bit of a texture difference. Taste, absolutely wonderful, but the texture, it is going to be a little bit wetter when you add your other ingredients, but still a very nice product. Tons of flavor. Once you make it, you'll never go back to canned unless you have to, which is not a problem. But anyhow, I'm going to get these in the oven. Probably going to take a good 45 minutes. We don't want this on a high oven. We don't want them to brown, because when we're having whether we're making pumpkin pancakes or we're making our pumpkin pie, we don't want to have bits of charred pieces in there. I mean, you can, if it does get browned, you could always remove that, but we want it to be nice and just fork tender is all we're going for. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mash it we'll scoop it out and mash it. So let me get this in the oven. All right, and we're going to start on our next dish, which is our pecan rice stuffing. So I'm really excited about that. My recipe that is on the website is double the recipe that we're going to make today. That's 2 cups of wild rice in that one. And I just thought that's a lot of wild rice for just my family while not entertaining. So let's get started on that. Let's get our pumpkin mess out of here. And we'll get our prep mise en place in for and this is a great idea too. And this is my mise en place. So let me show you what this looks like today. And mise en place. The first thing you learn in cooking school is mise en place, and that is there's everything in its place, and there's a place for everything. So there's really two parts to it. So let's this is my mise en place or prep for today. You'll hear in the kitchen all the time, where's your mise? Where's your mise? And it's because when everything is prepped like this before before we begin cooking, we don't forget ingredients. Everything's there ready, easy peasy. You just breeze right through that, and it guarantees that that you don't forget anything, that everything has already been measured, already been weighed, and it just facilitates for faster, more efficient cooking. I recommend that you do that. It's better than running back and forth to your pantry several times or reading a recipe. I always recommend reading the whole recipe through. You might find that you get halfway down and it's like, oh, now stick this in the oven for a half hour, when that's something that could have been maybe prepped ahead of time. So we just want to be mindful of those things while we are preparing our food. So you'll see in the original recipe, it says in a Dutch oven. I'm not going to use a Dutch oven. I'm just going to use my saute pan here, my high-walled saute pan. I am going to add some olive oil, and we're going to saute our vegetables first. And we have, of course, we have celery, carrots, and onion. So let's get that started. And while my oil is heating up, I am going to tell you about the substitutions and changes that I've made today to our recipe and tell you a little bit about the ingredients. So you'll see on the recipe that it says wild rice. So wild rice can mean a lot of things. I was able to find, typically you don't find just pure wild rice. It's usually a combination of wild rice and brown rice, or wild rice and white rice. It's usually a blend. So anyhow, that's what I have here for us today. And let me just show you what that looks like. Thought I could scoop some up, but let me just show you what that looks like. So this is our wild rice blend, and we're basically, today we're going to use 1 cup. And I like this. Definitely it's higher in fiber. It's definitely has so much more interesting texture going on here. So it's going to make a really nice side dish for our turkey. All right, and let's add, I'd like to add a little bit of butter to this oil too, just for some added flavor. And this is just something different than our traditional stuffing that we may have. From the traditional, maybe like bread that you might, bread cubes and giblet in that route. But we're still going to use, I've used some low sodium turkey broth today. And you could use regular turkey broth, you could use a chicken broth, anything that you prefer. I like to use turkey because it does have a nice flavor. I like to use low sodium. And it's nothing, it doesn't taste any different, just a little bit less salty. So it's not like they're using less sodium and they're substituting something else in there. So it does give it a nice taste. So we're just going to saute the 3 of these together. And while I'm sauteing those, we'll talk about everything else that we're adding. Okay, you'll also notice that the recipe called for sage. I love using fresh sage. We're also using fresh garlic. Pecans. Today I'm using walnuts just because I would like to use something with the omega fatty 3 acids. We know that our walnuts are a good source of that. And today I'm also using pomegranate arils. I do not see fresh pomegranate in my store right now. Usually you'll see them closer to the holidays, but I was able to get some frozen. So they're just add a nice flavor and texture, and even the frozen product is still very tasty. If I don't have pomegranates, I typically like to use a dry and sweetened cranberry. Those give a lot of texture, flavor, and they soak up any liquid that you have, and they get plump and they're very tasty. So also good to have. So let's keep stirring this, and I will keep talking to you. I typically like to do And we're not looking to brown this. We just want to, let me adjust the camera. We're not looking to brown this. We're just looking to cook it well till it's translucent. So I'll keep stirring. This is going to be a really nice side dish. So between our breakfast and between the other dish that we have here, the sweet potatoes, I think you're going to find it really tasty. So it's not going to take too long. And then I didn't show you, I just glossed over it real quickly. I didn't show you, but I like to do a fine dice. That way it cooks. It's not too small, but it's not a huge chunk either. We want to have something that's relative to the size of our rice, our pomegranates. We don't want to have huge chunks of celery, onion, and carrot. And then as soon as that gets a little bit more tender, we're going to add our garlic until it's fragrant. And then we're going to go ahead and stir our rice. And after the rice gets coated with the oil and a little bit of butter in there, then we will go ahead and add our broth. Once our broth comes to a boil, we will cover that pan, let it simmer, and then we're going to add in our other ingredients. So that's it in a nutshell. Let's get back and see what we've got going here. Okay, looks good. Let it go a little bit longer. So there's many things that we could do for the holidays. Some other dishes, we're going to put some other things on the website. I just thought they would be too basic. And there's some other things that we've done in class already that I just wanted to talk about that might make a nice side dish for your holiday. If you remember last year, we did a Brussels sprout. We shaved some Brussels sprouts and then we sauteed them. That was a really nice side dish that complemented this as well. And then we also did a zucchini, where we took a zucchini and we used a vegetable peeler and got very little ribbon slices, and we sauteed that, and then we added some crushed red pepper and some fresh shaved Parmesan and put that all together, and that just made a fantastic side dish. So I just wanted to do something different. And be mindful too. I like to do, since many people, when they're entertaining over this holiday season, they might do something like some type of stuffing like we're doing today. Again, what we're doing, you could leave it in the pan, or you could add a little bit more water and you could lightly put it around your turkey. If you're so inclined and you want to do it that way, that's fine. That comes off with a nice product. You may find that when your turkey is done cooking and you remove the turkey from your roasting pan, that you might need to add that dish back to the oven a little bit to get rid of any liquid that accumulated. Sometimes it just depends. It depends how much liquid comes out of that turkey. If you're basting it constantly. So you have those choices available to you. Again, if it's too wet, you could always stick it back in the oven to just dry up a little bit. But as I was saying, so we have our turkey, which is a fantastic source of protein. Sometimes you see that you will have the stuffing dish, you might have some type of sweet potato dish, and you might have a mashed potato dish. So we have all this starchy side dishes going on. So I always like to add a non-starchy vegetable. I wouldn't want to add corn or peas or like a starchy bean to this. So I find it's nice to add something like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, broccolini, the zucchini. All of those are very good non-starchy vegetable that's going to go real nicely with your Thanksgiving deal or any of your holiday meals. Okay, so our vegetables are nice and tender. And I will show you those right here. Okay, so we're going to add our garlic. And I already have that sliced up real nice. I have about 3 to 4 garlic cloves, and I minced them up really good. And we don't want to do this too long. We want to make sure that it doesn't get bitter. So we're just going to bring out the fragrance, which really only takes about 30 seconds to a minute. We don't want this getting brown. And that's why you want to make sure that your vegetables are already a little bit soft before we do that. So I'm just going to continue to stir this while we're talking, because I just don't want it to get bitter. And then I will bring it over to you to show you the next steps. All right, so let me bring this over here and we are going to get out our sage. Let's see here. Also going to add a little bit more rosemary to this one too. And again, just a few pieces just to get it, just to add some flavor here. And that smells wonderful. Okay. And then we have our sage. And I'm going to just, this is our sage, real soft and velvety. I always like to wash it well in advance of class, so it has a chance to dry. And you don't want to soak it, submerge it, just a light misting and pat it dry. See, it's not bruised or anything. It's still nice and fluffy. And I'm just going to give that a few cuts and then we'll add it here. Not going to go crazy on this. And we're just going to stir that in. Again, this is, oh, this smells so good. There's nothing like using the fresh. It's just so nice. Okay. Right. We're going to add our rice so it gets coated. And I'm just going to put this on the heat for a minute. Look how beautiful that looks. That's just going to make such a beautiful side. Okay. And you just want to make sure that it gets well coated. If you get this, if you get your rice blend well coated, then it won't be, it won't stick together. It will cook nicer and it'll be nice and fluffy. And how do I say it? It just won't stick together. Like it won't be a huge like clump of rice that's all stuck together when you go to hand it to somebody. Be just like a nice fluffy rice, which is what we're looking for. So, all right. So let's give it just a little bit of a stir, and it looks good to me. We're going to add our broth. And if I'm doing ratio of 2 to 1, just like you would regular rice, 2 parts of liquid to 1 part rice. And I have some reserved just in case we need a little bit more. So just going to add that. And then we're going to bring it back to a boil. Let me show you what that looks like. We're going to bring this back to a boil and then we'll cover it and let it simmer for a few minutes. Probably a good 15 minutes. Just everything needs a couple of minutes to cook today. There we go. So we're just going to bring that back up to a boil. Then we'll get it covered. So let's let that boil. And while we're doing that, let me just check on our sweet potatoes because it's been almost a half hour. So let's look at those, see what they look like, and then we'll take the cover off and get them back in the oven. Okay. So let me do that. And then we will start our pancakes. And we still have to add our pomegranates and our walnuts. And that will be at the end. Now I have on the recipe that you could toast the pecans. It's up to you. It does brighten them. You could also, what is also really nice are hazelnuts. Hazelnuts toast so nicely. They could, if you don't have the time to broil them, or if you have a turkey in the oven and stuffing and some other dishes in the oven, you may find that just sauteing your hazelnuts, walnuts, pecans, in just a small amount of olive oil or butter, clarified butter works the best. Just saute them for just 2 minutes. Really going to make the hazelnut fragrant, really going to make your pecans fragrant, really toast up those walnuts. It's a great option for you. So let me get those sweet potatoes out of the oven. And let's see how they look. Okay, so they smell wonderful. They're nicely coated. They look really good. I don't know if you could hear it, but they're just really, really sizzling. So yeah, you could hear it back there. They're sizzling real nicely. Still a little bit, I don't think they're fork tender yet. So we're going to stick them back in. Stick those back in the oven. Our pumpkins are doing real nicely. And then we'll check on that in a few minutes. And we will start after we'll put the lid on oh good, this should be done right before class ends. Oh good, I hope so. It's just starting to come to a boil. I wish you could smell it. It just smells amazing in here. You know, just think about all the things that you have going on over Thanksgiving. And I made some notes on the website. So typically it's 2-to-1, like I mentioned. You might find that it depends on your rice blend, though. I don't have it here. I believe it was the Bob's Red Mill. Many wonderful brands out there. That was the one that was available to me. But if you see that it's just soaking up too fast and the rice is still hard, you may need to add a little bit more liquid. I also recommend putting some, heating that broth up. I typically do that before I add it to here. It just makes that step go quicker. So just something to think about. I do hear it boiling, so let's get it covered. We'll keep that on a low simmer. Remember, when you're in this stage, yep, it's just coming to a nice little simmer here, which is perfect. I'm just going to lower that heat and cover that, and that should be done right as class is finishing up. So I'm glad about that. Let's make our pancakes, and let's also make our syrup. So I'm going to get our syrup started first, which is super easy. We've made so many of these in classes. But in our classes together. But this is one of my favorite things to do because we're just using fruit. So let's get that together here. We are just going to start with a small saucepan. And again, for our pumpkin pancakes, you can definitely use a maple syrup with them. That would be nice. But I just wanted to provide some fruit instead. We're going to use a half cup of sugar, half cup of water, and I don't know if I'm going to use that whole cup. I'm going to try to use a little less, and we're just going to. I'm going to bring that to a boil and dissolve that sugar first before I add my berries to it. And today I just get that started. Today I just have, remember we used these for our last class on the banana oatmeal bake. So I have just some frozen mixed berries. I just thought this would be really nice on our pumpkin pancakes. You could also, I just could not find any fresh ones yet. It's probably because it's just a little bit too early. Fresh cranberries. Just to do the same thing, make a simple syrup, throw your cranberries in there, let them cook, until they get nice and thick. And then you could also refrigerate them. Sometimes it's nice to serve them warm too with our pancakes. However you want to do that. Blueberries go very nice. Strawberries alone. I just had the mixed berry blend, so I thought I would do that. You could do apples. Apples would be wonderful. And that's the same thing. You could either lightly put a small amount of sugar, just sprinkle with sugar, or don't do any. It depends on the sweetness of your apples. And you could put some cinnamon on those and bake them in the oven and then put them on your pancakes. We could make use a little bit of whipping cream and do that, whatever you would like, however you typically like that. Or you could just do syrup if that's what you prefer. I just like to do like some fruit because it just adds another dimension. Not saying that it's healthier to do the fruit. Yes, it is nice to have the fruit, but yes, I am adding some sugar to it just to make that syrup. Okay, our sugar is dissolved here, so we're just going to add our berries and let them cook down while we're making the rest of it. Let me just give that a little stir, and that'll thicken up real nicely. I'm going to bring it to a boil first and then let it, and then I'm going to let it simmer. And let me just check our rice is going a little bit fast there. I'm just going to slow it down a little bit, fast boil. That's better. Okay, while we're doing that, let's get our pumpkin mix, our pumpkin pancakes together. So since we don't have a ton of time in class, I did do some pumpkins ahead of time, and we're going to use that pumpkin to do our pumpkin filling for the pancakes. And I want to say, there's just not enough time in class to do the pumpkins and then let them cool enough that you could scoop them out and puree them. So I just wanted to make sure that we did get to make them. So I did make some pumpkins ahead of time. Let me get my prep for that, and we could get started on that. Just going to move our cutting board over. Okay, and this is our mise en place for our pumpkin pancakes. So I have already done a few things, just for time is going so quickly. So I did put our pumpkin in here. I added some applesauce. This is basically 1 cup of our pumpkin puree. It is about a ½ cup of applesauce. All these amounts are on the website. And so we basically have those two together. And then as far as the dry ingredients, today I'm going to use an oat flour just for something different. Oat flour has a little bit more fiber than regular flour, and this is also gluten-free. So, and actually the one I'm using today, I'm also using you'll see like oatmeal, then it'll say that it's gluten-free, and it should be gluten-free. Oats and gluten have nothing to do with each other, right? But sometimes they're processed in a facility that there was gluten, so they cannot say gluten-free on oats and on the oat flour. So you have to make sure, if you do have a gluten sensitivity or you truly have celiacs and you don't want to get quote unquote glutened, you have to make sure that those products are gluten-free. If it's a mild sensitivity, you may be able to get I'm not recommending, but you may be able to have some of these things without having any incident. Just depends how much you have and what your tolerance level is. So let's get started. So what I did is I'm going to take the dry ingredients first. I have my oat flour. I put a cup of oat flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, ½ teaspoon of salt, and then I have a teaspoon of cinnamon, a ½ teaspoon of ginger, and a ½ teaspoon of, just want to turn down our berries, and a ½ teaspoon of nutmeg, just to give it some nice flavor in there. So I'm going to mix all that together with a whisk. And let me just adjust this so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so it's just a matter of mixing our spices and our flour together. Okay. Then I'm going to add our egg to our pumpkin. Then I'm going to add, I'm also going to use oats. So that was just 1 egg to 1 cup of pumpkin and a ½ cup of applesauce. And I just did that for some sweetener. Then we're going to add our oat flour with our baking powder and salt. Now, the reason I do this first, it's always a good idea to get those dry ingredients in there together and the wet ingredients together and then introduce them to each other. And then I'd like to add my oats. So I like to add oats to this recipe. It has oat flour, and sometimes, if you look at the ingredients for our oat flour, it's just oats, it's just ground oats. So really we could make our own flour out of this if we wanted, but I like to have some of these just to add a little bit of texture. So we're going to stir that together. Okay. Then we're going to add, I have about 7 tablespoons of almond milk. You could use whatever milk you like. And you want to get it to, a pancake batter consistency. So again, that's going to depend on how your pumpkin turned out, how your applesauce is. So sometimes I don't like to say hard numbers. It's really going to have to be that you try the batter when it seems like pancake batter, then you're ready. Okay. And I think I want to add a little bit more. And I'm going to get us a little bit more here. Then we'll check on our potatoes. And again, I'm just using almond milk. You could use oat milk again, whatever you like. If you want to use regular milk, you can. Cow's milk, that's also an option. Maybe you want to make these higher proteins, definitely use whole milk. Okay, there we go. That's a nice batter. That's a nice batter. This is going to give us a nice fluffy pancake, and this is going to make about 4 pancakes. And I went ahead before class. Actually, I can make about 5 pancakes. Went ahead before class and I made them, and they are delicious. So just a nice pancake. See how that nice and yellow oranges from the pumpkin. So that's nice. Gonna look nice on your brunch table or your breakfast table. And we need our berries, just need a few more minutes to thicken up. I'll just give those a stir. Okay, we'll let that go for a little bit. Then we have our pancakes. Let's check on our sweet potatoes. I'll take those out of the oven and we will uncover them and get them back in the oven so they can brown nicely. Okay, let's do that. And then I want to show you how our pumpkin is looking too, because our pumpkin looks really good. Okay. Oh, wow. Wow. You could see what I'm talking about. See, so yeah, so you could see the steam. They steamed really nicely. I want to show you how they're fork tender. Now, the second part is just getting them nicely browned. So let's just give them a little oh yeah, perfect. I mean, so really could probably eat them now, but I'm going to put them in there just to get them nicely browned. Oh, look how nice that's going to look on your table. We're going to put some more fresh rosemary on these before we serve them on our table. But look at that, right? So all this is our sweet potatoes, garlic, rosemary, a little bit of salt, and olive oil, and a small amount of butter. Just to enhance the flavor, not mask it. And these are going to be, it smells amazing. I wish you could smell that rosemary. Just smells amazing. And if you're short on time, you could always, if they're fully cooked, you could go ahead and broil them. I just wanted to pull out the pumpkin so you could see what that looks like. Now, remember I said we don't want to brown them. My oven's a little, oh, very nice. My oven is a little bit fast because I have it on 400 for our other dish. So as soon as I take out the sweet potatoes, I'm going to crank that down to 350, but just so you could see how nicely these come out. And then what you would do for your pumpkin pie. And in fact, I could show you on this one. Because this one's, I cut this one in a small piece. So see how fork tender that is? Then I would put this in my food processor. So see what it looks to how nice that's going to mash up for you. So you'll see that this is just like our pancakes. It's almost like a little bit more yellowish than that typical orange you see. See how nice that mashes up? Oh my gosh. So you could, you can mash it, but I think food processor gives you a nice even product. And that's what you want when you're having your pie too. You don't want to have big chunks in there. You don't want to taste big pieces or chunks of pumpkin. You want to have a nice, it's almost like a custard consistency when you make it. So, but anyhow, that's what it's going to be like. Like I said, I left some of these other ones bigger just because of the time limitations we have on class. But anyhow, really, really nice. So I'm actually going to take this one out of there so it doesn't cook anymore. Yeah, but that's really nice. Now there's nothing on this. So what's it going to taste like? It's going to taste like some of our acorn squashes, you know, sweet potato in that family. Okay. Very nice. Okay, so let's get this back in the oven, check on our rice dish, check on our fruit. And we only have a few more minutes. Oh yeah, those potatoes are getting real nice. Okay, our fruit. Probably should have put our fruit on a little bit sooner. I'm going to drain off a little bit of this liquid just to get it going a little bit more. Okay. And we'll just smash those down. Even if we don't use all of the liquid. Oh, this looks so good. Okay, don't know if it's going to be done before class, but we'll see. Got a few more minutes here. I'll show you what it looks like. Certainly zipping along. So that looks gorgeous. Like I said, just a little bit more liquid in there needs to come off. So it smells wonderful. Just get this back here. And we will go ahead and prepare one of our pancakes. Let's not use a blue dish so we can actually see what it looks like. We will put our pancake on here. And we'll just go ahead and drizzle a little bit of our fruit on top. Get a slotted spoon if I have one. Okay, and we'll just put some of this on. Oh, this is beautiful. Again, it's not quite thick yet, but we're still going to put it on there just because. Class, you could always smash a few down. But that's going to be amazing. Again, you could use apples on that. I'm going to let that thicken up so whenever we put everything on the site that we could see it. And let's go ahead. So you see what the pumpkin's going to look like. That can be used in any of your pumpkin recipes this holiday season. You could use it for pie. You could use it for pancakes. You could use it for muffins, so many things. And, you know, right after October 31st, pumpkins are really going to go on sale. So you can really find these sugar pumpkins. Like I said, I paid around $3 for mine for that size, but you could also find you know, because people are still using these for decorations. So once this season is over, the price is going to drop, just like, you know, how I said I didn't have the cranberries available to me. Typically, I buy several bags right after Thanksgiving too, because the price is so low and you could get them for probably 99 cents for a pound. And then I typically freeze them because they freeze so nicely. And who says that we could only use cranberries during the holiday season? They make a nice addition to things like our pancakes and muffins and other things, purees. We could add them to our shake, and they're so high in antioxidants and other things. So again, for our rice dish, we're just going to top that off with pomegranates and the walnuts. I don't want to do it yet because it's not done. So I'll post that picture and let me grab our sweet potatoes out of there. See if they got a little bit browned. If not, we will go ahead and get them back in there. Yeah, so not quite browned, a little bit more brown, but not quite yet. So we have that. We have our pancake. We have our rice dish. Let me see how my rice dish is doing. Not yet. And it's certainly not going to get done, huh? I keep uncovering it, but I just want to show you so for class. So you could see the liquid is almost gone there. So it's almost ready. And what I'll just do is I'll just fluff it with a fork. I'm going to toast these now. And I'm just going to saute them and also add our pomegranates. Just imagine how beautiful that's going to look. And what a nice addition these are going to make to your table. So I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Please reach out to me and please check back. I will make sure that all these pictures get on the website so you can see the final product. But I had so much fun today. I hope you learned something. I hope you got some new ideas for your table, something a little bit different. And remember, try to experiment with some of these sides. Think about what makes a good meal good. Think about varying flavors, texture, color, and cooking methods. So we don't want everything to be the same. Remember our example. So just trying, if you could just look at all these beautiful colors we have here. Imagine the turkey. If you have like a nice buttermilk mashed potatoes, something like that, you have a very nice array of flavors, textures with the pomegranates, with the pecans, with walnuts, with berries, with soft potatoes, but they're going to get crisp on the edge. It's just a really great meal to have fun with. So please, again, all my recipes are on lauraservice.com or also the Lending Heart site. Don't hesitate to reach out. Have a wonderful day. Try some new recipes, eat from the rainbow, and you'll stay on the path to wellness. Thank you.